Hey everyone! Today I'm going to be thrift flipping my granny's clothes. Let me explain. So I recently discovered 2 giant suitcases full of my gran's old clothes that hadn't seen the light of day in many years. I started sorting them into a pile of sell because wow, my gran's waist was small in the 1950s, keep because wow, somehow I fit into these and I can make these work. I was left with a pile to alter, or as the kids are calling it these days, thrift flip. Now, to make this project all the more interesting, you need to know that I have never sewn before. So what I mean by that is obviously I have hand sewn, I have sewn buttons back onto things when I need to. I remember once when I was 8 sewing a dress for my Build-A-Bear, but I've never used a sewing machine. But after being locked in a relatively small flat with no garden in central London for close to a year now, I decided to get a sewing machine and learn a new skill. And what better way to start a new skill than by practicing on my gran's clothes, which obviously I'm relatively emotionally attached to. Now, does anything else make me qualified for this project? Well, I've watched rather a lot of Ashley Bestress and Pecoraro sewing videos, so I can only see this project ending well. So first up, we had this very interesting dress. Now, I love the statement this dress is making. She is bold, she is here to party, but I couldn't see an occasion where I would wear this without altering it. It is both an evening dress, but it also has this really bold 60s print that to me makes it look more daytime. So I decided the only thing that would make sense is to alter it into a 60s style daytime midi dress that would be perfect for wearing to the office, if I ever go back to working in an office. Now, I don't have the most footage of me altering this dress because I actually altered this one at home over Christmas with my mum so that she could teach me the basics of at least how to use a sewing machine. So I started off by measuring where on my leg I wanted the dress to end, and although I wanted it to be like a very 60s style mini dress, I didn't want to make it too short because I hate when mini dresses are too short to even sit down, like they only look good standing up. So I wanted to make sure it didn't ride up too much when I sat down. And then we cut the fabric about 1.5 inches lower than where we wanted it to end to make the seam. And the dress's pattern meant that we didn't have to use a ruler, we just cut along the line of the pattern. And then I hemmed both the underskirt and the dress. I look like a sort of 90s ski instructor, like, hi, I've just got back from the mountain and I'm relaxing in my lodge. That's not what's going on, it's just this flat is freezing. Next up, we are going to be altering these skirts. They are just full length, pretty drab looking, I suppose you'd call them maxi skirts. I assume they're kind of more formal skirts that my gran would have worn with like a blouse in the evening. So the plan with these is to turn them into wide leg trousers or palazzo pants, as I've also seen them called online. I have no idea if this will work. I also haven't looked up much of how to do this. I'm just going to wing it and hope for the best.
No.
So I'm probably going to start with the black ones first because I like the brown ones better, mostly because of the stretchy waist, meaning I can fit into them better. Okay, so you're going to have to excuse a lot of things in this video. First off, the lighting. I have to film this at night because I work in the day. Second of all, the cat who's making a lot of noise. And third of all, the things you can see under my bed and my desk, because this is the biggest bit of floor space in this flat. So I used some existing pairs of trousers to measure where I wanted the crotch to be and how wide the trouser leg should be, and then I drew a line from the crotch down to the bottom. Okay, so I have now drawn a line on the fabric, and I've decided before cutting I'm going to pin it down because I worry when I cut the fabric will move, and pinning seems like something that people who make clothes do. Okay, we're going for it. We've made a cut. It's happening. Oh my god, 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 oh my god.
And I continued to cut the trouser leg and pretty much say, oh my god, all the way up as I got scared I'd done it wrong.
Okay, now, because I didn't have pinking shears, they are arriving in the post on Friday. I think what I need to do is hem each of these raw edges and then sew the trouser legs together.
So this is where one of my biggest mistakes happened, as I really hadn't left enough room for a hem and the fabric was already fraying a lot more than I thought. But I persisted with an impending sense of doom and pinned the trouser legs together.
After I hemmed them, I realised before doing that I should pin the legs together and see how they were. So I did that with the hem pinned in, and I realised I think I didn't leave enough space in the crotch, even though I measured them against other trousers. I don't think I left enough space. So I'm going to carry on because there's nothing else I can do at this point. I'm going to hem the legs. I'm not going to hem the crotch because I don't want to lose any length from it.
By this point, as you can tell from that last clip, I was becoming more and more stressed, but I carried on making the thinnest hem I could on the trousers, literally just rolling the material over and then stitching the trouser legs together.
Now, there's no modelling footage of me wearing these trousers, but I'm here to show you how they ended up. It didn't end well. I've just put these on for this clip. After that, I'm cutting them up for scraps. Yeah, I made a lot of mistakes with these trousers. I really didn't realise how low a crotch needed to be and how much material there needed to be around a crotch, despite the fact I was measuring them against an existing pair of trousers. So I learned from these to alter the brown ones. You'll see how they ended up. Spoiler warning, it's not perfect, but yeah, these were definitely the biggest fail of everything we did, so I won't be keeping these. Another day, another outfit that looks like an 80s ski instructor. So after the disaster that was yesterday, today I'm working on something easier. I am not working on the other maxi skirt to try to make it into wide leg trousers because I need something hopefully easier to make myself feel better before I attempt that again. So we are working with this maxi skirt. It's another maxi skirt. So this is one of the only items I actually have a photo of my Gran in. So I assumed when I saw this skirt that she wore it as like a summer skirt for like in the garden, but no, she wore this to formal events in the 70s. I really like this skirt as it is, apart from this ruffle at the bottom. So my plan is to cut it off basically just above where the ruffle is and turn it into a midi skirt.
So I began this one by laying a few of my favourite mini skirts over this skirt to check whether it was the right length, realising that the ruffle was a bit too high and this dress would be a bit too short, deciding I didn't care, and then just cutting it at the ruffle with my new pinking shears, which had finally arrived.
Wait, hold on. I could do such a cute co-ord. Okay, I'm gonna have to work out how to make a top out of this.
So by this point I had also realised that my bed was in fact a lot bigger than the floor space in my flat, so I was cutting everything on there, but watching this back I'm actually really scared for myself, the scissors and the bedding. I then got my iron out for the first time in quarantine to iron, hem and pin down the skirt, and then I sewed those hems into the underskirt and the floral overskirt.
I was nearly done with the outside of the skirt and then something went pooh on the sewing machine, so I lifted it up and it had gone wrong the whole way around without me realising. So the hem side looks fine, like that's what I was looking at the whole time, but the front side, look, something must have gone wrong with how I threaded it, but I don't understand what. And now I have to undo the whole skirt and do it all again and it's all unpinned.
Honestly, I was not aware until doing this voiceover that my voice could sound that annoying, but I was clearly very upset. So I then unpinned everything I'd sewn, which took longer than sewing it originally, which seems a bit unfair, and I then re-hemmed the bottom of the skirt.
Okay, is the length exactly what I wanted? No, it's a little bit shorter than I wanted. It's more like knee length than traditional midi length, which I'd say is a couple of inches longer, but I think it still looks cute, like I'm not mad at it. So this is all I was initially going to do, but now we have this. It's 10 o'clock at night, so I'm not going to do this tonight, but I would like to sort of think about what I want to do.
So I'm very aware this clip looks like it's from the same day, but it is in fact the next evening. So I measured around the top of my bust to see how wide I would need the circle of top to be. Because it wasn't going to contain elastic, it needed to exactly kind of rest on top of my boobs, stay up, but still be comfortable. I then realized that the top would be too long, so I used a Harry Potter book as a ruler, because I don't own one, to measure 2 inches and take that off the top of the bottom ruffle and then pin the 2 ruffles back together so that the top overall would be 2 inches shorter, so that it would show a bit of my midriff when I wore it with the skirt. So I wanted it to be a bit more cropped. Then I simply stitched the top ruffle and the bottom ruffle back together so it looked the same as it did before, just 2 inches shorter. Then I hemmed the 2 outside edges of the top so they wouldn't fray, and then sewed the whole top together into a circle so it would just kind of be a cropped sleeveless top that would sit above my boobs.
We have a top! I like it as it is, but I would like to add sleeves using the rest of the material. And what I'm thinking is those little kind of off the shoulder sleeves using just the top ruffle so it kind of lines up with this top bit of the top. But what I need to work out is how much material I need so that my arms can move, like at least kind of up to here, as arms need to, but so that it like hangs above my elbow. I don't know. I'm just gonna have to do some pinning to try to work this out because it's really hard.
So I removed that top ruffle from those 2 bits of ruffle. I realise I've said ruffle way too much in this voiceover. And then essentially just kept pinning until I got the sleeves in the position I wanted and also with the amount of drape I wanted over the arms. This just took a lot of pinning and taking it on and off on myself. And then I just used a simple tiny like inch of stitching to sew each of the sleeves to the actual top. So it's a little bit awkward to put on, but I think it works. I just want to point out that with all these modelling clips in this video, I've edited them to look really warm, but it was literally 0 degrees in London and the next day it snowed. I had no other time to film all these modelling shots, so enjoy the illusion of me making it look warmer. Sorry, off you go with your awkward modelling, Hannah.
Now we move along to this very special dress. Again, I cannot fathom an occasion where my Gran would have worn this, and I was very disappointed that I couldn't track down a single photo of her wearing it. I looked through everything and couldn't find anything. When I put it on, it really gave me this like funky, cool English teacher, but in the 1900s vibe. So like the young, hip, cool female teacher who first came to teach at a school for boys in the 1900s, which isn't what it looks like because the pattern is way too modern, but it was just the vibes it was giving me. I decided, much like everything else in this video, that I wanted to take it above the knee, but I also needed to figure out other ways to modernize it. I do not know what we're going to do with this one. So this dress is so weird. Right, so I'm thinking the only thing we really can do is shorten it, basically like we've done with almost everything, because who wears something full length nowadays? So shorten it into a mini dress, and then the other thing I'm thinking is taking some off the sleeves so they end up still with the white cuff. Okay, so not keep the cuffs, I think take those off. Shorten it so it's like a 1960s mini dress. think take off these belt loops because they're kind of unnecessary. They're not keeping this belt up and they look really big. And now the last thing I need to think about is this bit. It's not the most comfortable. I need to check what's underneath here. I don't think this fabric is underneath here. So this would be too low as a neckline if I were just to take the white panel out because my bra is, I don't know, it kind of skims my bra, but that would be a very weird, very square neckline. Okay, excuse my makeupless appearance. Here's what I'm thinking with the front. I don't like this, but the blue material doesn't continue underneath. It is literally hemmed here. So if I completely take this white thing out, I think I would lose too much of the blue thing. Like it would then be too low. So I've been looking at like the fashion of really low square necklines and whether it would work. And I think if I cut it so you still have the white trim, I'm trying to work out if it would be too low or if it's okay. It's so hard because it's not something I can like pin in place and see how it would look. Like I'm just gonna have to cut this out. And if it doesn't work, then it's ruined. I don't know, I'm trying to look in the viewfinder and imagine that's my skin. But here's the issue. Normally when you have a low square neckline, I believe you have, yes, the whole dress is open at the back, a square back to like make that a normal thing. But I can't do that because A, I'd have to take out the zip and I don't know how to redo a zip, and B, if I was to take out the zip, I would lose too much fabric even if I knew how to put in a zip, because I could learn, but I would lose too much fabric and then wouldn't be able to put a new zip in because there wouldn't be enough fabric to then put the zip in, unless I sewed like a new strip of fabric in. But that all seems like what I'll do if this doesn't work, essentially. Will that stay up? Like, will it, that's the other thing, will it stay on my shoulders if I do that? Because it'll be really high at the neck and coming downwards, so will it just slip off? Is that why I need a low back? I think that's what I'm gonna do.
And do that I did, cutting out the white ruffled panel and just leaving the scalloped edge of it behind.
Holy mother of God, it's worked. Haha! Bit of collarbone action going on there, how sexy. It's not that sexy. Oh, I am so relieved. Wow, I'm getting, ooh, now I'm getting like Bridgerton Regency vibes. No, stop, do I want to keep it like this? I'm getting very Jane Austen with modern pattern vibes. I mean, it's not actually Jane Austen because what I do know about Regency fashion, I like fashion history, I just don't know how to sew, is the waistline was here and this would not have been fitted, this would have ballooned out. It's just kind of giving me that vibe, but it's not actually Regency.
No, Hannah, that is not what Regency is, unless maybe it's Bridgerton Regency. So I then proceeded to stitch rip the tiny bit of white colour that was left that joins to the zip, so it would just be the blue material that joined from the neck to the zip. And then I pinned down the centimetre of fabric I'd left around that white scalloped edge so that I could hem it underneath and it would lay nice and flat against my chest. After that, I actually used a tape measure and chalk to measure how much of the dress I wanted to cut off at the bottom and cut off that bottom piece of fabric. I actually now have loads of this blue fabric left. I think I'm going to make matching masks to go with this dress, but let me know if you have any other ideas of what I can do with this fabric. I then ironed down the hem of the dress, and when I joked earlier that this is the first time I've got my iron out in quarantine, it is also one of the first times I've got my iron out since ever. I really don't iron. Does anyone else just not understand ironing as an adult? Like, I'd rather buy clothes that don't need ironing than get my iron out. I don't understand. I iron nothing. But then I sewed that ironed hem in place, and it does indeed make it easier to sew the hem, and it turns out less bumpy, so I can see why irons are good in sewing. So I sewed that hem in place and also sewed that collar hem in place so that everything laid nice and flat.
We're attempting trousers again. Have I recovered from the failure of the last ones? No. But I have now had two things go really well. So hopefully this will. Things I've learned from last time. I need to make the crotch so much lower. These aren't fitted trousers with like a seam down the bum and like things around the crotch. They're like loose trousers, so the crotch needs to be a lot lower because they're just flowy trousers. Like there's no need for the crotch to be high. And also in the last one, as I was cutting upwards, I curved to like where I was going to cut the crotch, and instead I need to do a line and a line because trousers go like that. Like you have that bum shelf, you don't want the leg curving. So let's try this again.
Much like with the black trousers, I used some existing trousers to measure what I wanted to do, but this time I made the crotch a lot lower than I thought I needed, and also left what I thought was enough leg width.
Be cursed by trying to make trousers out of skirts. I think the crotch needs to be higher.
So yeah, in the end, not only did I have to make the crotch of the trousers a lot higher, but I ended up having to cut 2 triangle panels from the leftover scraps and sewing them into the inside leg of the trouser seams to actually make both the crotch and the trousers wider at the top. I don't have loads of footage of me doing this because honestly I got so stressed, but it did sort of work. You can really see the seam, it is quite obvious from the back, but luckily as the trousers are a dark material, I think I could get away with them if I wore them to like a dark pub or bar in the evening, just maybe not when I go to work. But you can see what I mean in the modelling clips.
Okay, next on the chopping block is this. This was actually my Gran's nursing uniform. We have 4 of these, 2 in this kind of quite light bright blue and 2 in a darker navy blue. We think that these lighter blue ones are when she was a ward nurse and the darker blue ones were when she was a district or visiting nurse, but we're not 100% sure. I chose to go with the lighter blue one to try to do something with because it looks a bit less like a nurse's thing than the dark blue one, which looks like very NHS blue scrubs. I would just like to somehow turn this into a cute summer dress. I think that would be really cool. And hopefully the photo I am putting on screen in the edit now is my Gran when she was a nurse and she met my grandpa. So yeah, I think I want to make it a bit shorter, possibly taking the waist, do something with the sleeves. And we'll just see if we can make it look like a summer dress rather than a uniform. We're probably just doing a turn up like this. It still looks like a nurse's uniform, but now it just looks like a Halloween sexy nurse's uniform, which is not what I want. I want it to be like an actual summer dress. Okay, I can't think of any other way to alter this, so I think I am just going to go with this. I did just text a friend with no context a picture of me wearing it with it hemmed like this and say, what do you think of what I'm wearing? I'm not going to tell you, just tell me what you think I look like. And she said, a wartime nurse that's travelled to the future. So I definitely didn't succeed in not making it look like a nurse's outfit. But with this colour, I'm not sure what else I can do. So I think I'm going to do this. Ideas have come to me. Okay, so I was looking at this, which is the lace trim that I cut off the floral maxi skirt, the last thing I altered. And I was like, this kind of thing could work well on the dress. This itself is too thick for what I'm thinking, but I looked it up. And what about if I got this kind of lace trim, so a lot thinner, this is only 0.8 millimeters, and put it round the edge of the collar, like piping, and possibly the edge of the sleeves. And then the other thing that makes it look kind of nursey, kind of industrial isn't the right word, what am I looking for, like worky, are the buttons, because they're cheap plastic buttons. So you can tell I'm not a sewing person because I don't just have a button box of like lace and buttons that I'm like, ooh, this could work. I'm gonna have to actually purchase these things. What if I use buttons like these like vintage gold buttons with a bit of detail on? instead of these. So they're still kind of white, but they're a bit more fancy.
So after having a look at the original hem, you can see it's a really wide hem. It's like 2 inches. And I decided I wanted to do a similar thing, just shorter, so that the dress would have the same overall shape. So I cut off just the bottom hem and then turned up and pinned in place this kind of extra wide 2-inch hem on the bottom.
Okay, after over a week, because COVID makes the post quite slow, we have the lace trim, the buttons, and the correct colour thread to alter the dress.
So now that I had that blue thread, I sewed the hem in place, and I think this was the first time I didn't fuck up threading the sewing machine and something didn't go wrong that I had to go and fix. I also stitched up the arms so they were a little bit shorter, and then I began to pin the white lace around the collar. And I deliberated whether to hand sew this in place or machine sew it. I really wasn't sure which was the right one, but I decided if I hand sewed it, it might run the risk of coming off quite easily. So I decided to really carefully stitch it using the sewing machine, which was not fun trying to turn the corners on the collar, but I think it will definitely last longer than if I'd hand sewn it into place. Then I unpicked the existing white buttons on the dress and hand stitched on the new gold buttons, adding a few more down the front of the dress as well as on the front of the pockets to make it look a bit more like a real dress and again a bit less like a nurse's uniform.
I'm in my dressing gown because I've just tried it on. I thought adding lace around the collar would make it look less nursey. What I failed to realise was a lot of nurses' uniforms have white piping around the collar, which this looks like because it's a very thin lace, and I've made it look more nursey. So now I'm going to add more lace to try to make it look less nursey.
So despite the fact that nurses' uniforms have white piping along the pockets and along the bottom, I added a lot more lace, even though it looked like white piping, because there was really nothing I could do at this point. So I added that white lace around the front, so it went in a box around the buttons, around the sleeves, and all along the bottom of the dress.
So that is everything of my Grans I altered. I'm actually really happy with how almost everything came out. I was not actually expecting this to go that well, but I feel like I will actually wear everything in summer. I want to wear it to get drunk in a park with my friends, which is the actual dream at this point. But yeah, a lot less went wrong than I thought it would. I'm also going to be making a video trying on some of my Grans clothes that I didn't need to alter, that I'll just be keeping as is. So subscribe if you want to see that, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys.